Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Time for another edition of your favorite and mine, Thursday Coast, with the founder of the largest online progressive community there is, Thursday Coast, dailycoast.com. Marcos joins us from the left coast. Buddy, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you very much. I'm a
Good.
freshly minted empty nester. So I've
Yeah.
been I've been traveling. We joked that my daughter is the empty nester because she's at home. She's going to community college and I'm the one that took off. But
Right,
right now I'm home.
right,
I
right,
got to
right.
check up on her, make sure everything's okay.
How's that adjustment for you?
It's weird. I mean, you went through it once a few years ago. It's a weird feeling and I was a full-time single dad, right? So it's not having that sort of perpetual always have to worry about them. And of course we worry about our kids. I mean, that doesn't
Right,
change. But I don't have to legally worry about them. It's a little different.
well, that's good. At this stage of life, we deserve to hang out a little bit and take care of ourselves,
Yeah.
and
So
we look forward to that. And Ari, how's he doing?
he's doing great. He's National Guardsman down in LA and he got lucky. He didn't have to do this BS deployment that Trump has made him do. Called up 4,000 guardsmen supposedly because of the LA riots. There's no LA riots. There's not even any LA protests right now, really. So there's 4,000 guardsmen getting paid to just sit on their butts, pissed off because they got families and they got jobs, and Trump doesn't care. Trump doesn't get a rat's ass about people's actual lives. Um, this is his little battle with Gavin Newsom, and Ari, thankfully, because he had school, he had to finish school. He got out of that activation, but his buddies are not in a good place, and just shows how Trump just disrespects our troops time and time again.
Yeah. Well,
They're literally doing nothing. They're sitting on their asses doing nothing, and it's costing them like $40 million a month. And where's Doge and all that nonsense, right? Like they never cared about actually saving money. They care about their culture war battles. They care about destroying the social net. They don't
mhm.
actually care about people.
Yeah. Um, isn't it interesting too how that story, it was dramatic. He always is trying to get in the news cycle. Now there's nothing. There's no coverage of what is going on in LA.
Mhm.
It's just a lot of drama, and he's got it. So are the troops still there?
Yes, 4,000 of them. Not only it was bad enough that they called up 2,000 from LA and Southern California, so San Diego. My son's unit is in San Diego. He actually called up all of the NorCal California guardsmen and sent them south for no reason. The 2,000 were sitting on their butts. Now there's 4,000 sitting on their butts, and it's costing like $40 million a month to do literally for them to sit on their butts and do nothing. There's no mission. They literally have nothing to do. And so they're stewing on, they're literally all pissed off. They want to get back. One of my son's unit mates, his wife has just she just found out she's pregnant. She wants her husband. They won't let her go. Let him go be with his wife who's newly pregnant. I mean, things like that. And you think Trump gives a damn? Of course he doesn't give a damn. There's no mission. There was literally nothing but sitting on their butts. And Trump called up more just to be an a-hole. No reason. Nobody said we need more troops. Nobody.
And now we've got alligator Alcatraz, just something else to get on camera and get in front of the screen and soak up the news cycle.
Yeah.
Um, but folks, we're trying to affect that simultaneously. Um, I'm involved in another broadcast, State of the People Marathon. We've been since Monday been talking about the budget. Had members of Congress on this big, ugly, big, beautiful bill he calls it, but it's a big, ugly bill. Hakeem Jeffries is on the floor now, and so people are watching that. What's your? I mean, I don't think we're going to stop it. Hakeem's going to talk for as long as he can. I'll just send him Frederick Douglass's speech. Hopefully, he'll read that. That'll help. And that's good for a good 2-3 hours. You all know that's a tradition. I do it every 4th of July. I read the speech in its entirety, not the abbreviated version. So tomorrow, if you want to tune in and make it plain and get the full 2.5, 3 hour speech. I will read it in its entirety. If you're ever bored, you can call me. I'll read it to you over the phone. But it's long and a great speech, by the way, but it's very long. What are your thoughts about this bill? First of all, from your point of view, and I know you know all the numbers. I mean, I know you've seen analysis, but we just want to hear your voice in terms of folks hearing from Marcos how bad this thing really is.
It is so bad that we had reports yesterday that Trump, speaking to a bunch of House members in the White House, told them to make sure not to cut any Medicaid because if they did, they would lose their elections. Trump has no idea what's in it. He gets it that cutting Medicaid is a electoral loser. We see Don Bacon in Nebraska, in the Omaha, Nebraska district, which Kamala Harris won. We see him; he just quit. He's voting for the bill, and he quit because he knows he can't even defend that thing. Yeah. So he's an a-hole Republican. He always was, but he's like, I'm going to lose. What's the point? So he quit, and it is a bill that, I mean, one is, first of all, like, Trump doesn't know what's in it, right? He just wants the victory. He wants to be able to like be on TV and be the conquering hero. But you know what's really amazing about this whole thing is, and we've talked about this before, Mark, it's just how surgically it targets his own new base. For the first time in probably forever, if not ever, since realignment, Republicans won people making less than $50,000. They won the working class.
Yeah.
Democrats won those making over 50,000, and they won very comfortably amongst those making over 100,000. So, as a former colleague of mine once said, Democrats are the party of people who don't need to look at prices when buying groceries. That's who we are. So you have a new base, and you think Republicans and Steve Bannon has actually been on this. Right? They have a new base, and it's working class people, but they're acting like Republicans, right? They're acting like they're the party of billionaires and rich people. So they're so hyper fixated on giving billionaires a $20,000 tax cut. 20,000 for billionaires, for millionaires. What is that? It's nothing, right? It's a rounding error, while actually raising taxes on those making less than 50,000. It's absolutely incredible. They're cutting the infrastructure bill money that Joe Biden passed. They're cutting that, even though 75% of the benefits of that go to red counties, to Republican area counties. Now, Mark, I've talked about how stupid it was for Biden to pass a bill that benefited Republicans, right? Like, benefit our people, get our people to see a connection between government and their vote. But he very naively thought that Democrats would be rewarded if they actually spent money developing these rural areas, these economically disadvantaged areas. That didn't happen. They voted for Trump by even bigger numbers. And now Trump's coming in and he's literally cutting that money. He's cutting money that is Medicaid. The Medicaid expansion literally keeps rural hospitals afloat.
That's right. Right.
And so we know, and a bunch of these Republicans have been complaining about that, including Josh Hawley in Missouri, but then they vote for the frickin' bill, right? After they spent months complaining about how this will absolutely decimate rural hospitals. Mark, you and me, our hospitals are fine. They're gonna be fine. I suspect that most of the people listening to this, most of those, probably don't live in rural areas. We are going to be impacted, obviously, by these Republican policies, but it is kind of amazing how targeted and how strategically focused these cuts are going to be on Trump's new rural base. It's cut broadband funding, so digital divide stuff. It's cut that money. It's cut Medicaid, which there's some of these red counties. It's something like 70% of people in some of these of the reddest counties are on Medicaid. It is absolutely going to decimate them. Now, the sadness about it all is that I don't think they're going to punish Republicans for it, because there's a whole machine designed to rewrite history, to rewrite reality. They're all watching Fox News. Fox News isn't going to be telling them, oh yeah, Trump cut these benefits that you're losing. That's because of Trump. No, they're going to somehow blame Biden. I mean, I was watching this Cuban American whose wife was deported, and he was blaming Joe Biden. It was Joe Biden's fault because Joe Biden didn't pass comprehensive immigration reform. Therefore, it's his fault. Trump he was just enforcing the law. That's what this guy said.
Right.
I mean, of course, first of all, Trump um, did not have to eliminate TIPP, temporary protected status, TPP status for Cubans or Salvadorans, Nicaraguans, Venezuelans. But beside that, it was Trump who torpedoed the immigration reform bill that Biden and congressional Republicans had negotiated. So again, they'll find a way to rationalize why their vote for Trump isn't the reason they're going to be experiencing new misery, but they're going to be experiencing new misery. And Mark, this, the Black community is affected, of course.
Yeah.
They've always affected, right? In good times and bad times. I don't think there's a sense of betrayal in a sense, because it's just, that's the reality. The Latino community, record numbers voted for this shit. So it's up to them to learn that lesson. And I hope they do learn that lesson. Particularly Latino men majority of them voted for Trump. It was like 58-42 of Latino men voted for Trump. Now you get to suffer the consequences. It is what it is. But those rural white voters, I don't think they've ever had to deal with this kind of government mandated misery, because Democrats always mitigated the worst successes of the Republican Party, and there's no Democrats now to do that anymore. So they are being absolutely targeted. And to me, that's the one silver lining to all of this, is that in the end, it is not Blue America that's going to suffer the brunt of the consequences. It is actually those people who voted for Donald Trump.
Why? Let me just go back for a minute, and we may have talked about this before, but I just want to kind of reiterate it. Why do you think in 2024, particularly, so many Latinos voted for this, knowing all the risks that were involved?
Yeah, I have a story I wrote recently that actually really speaks to this. Men in particular, there is a sense amongst men that they are being sort of vilified and blamed for society's ills, for toxic masculinity, for the patriarchy, and there's been a sort of a blowback with men. Some of it is obviously, most of it is not actually justified. It's a bunch of bullshit, but men are actually suffering, right? And to me, we as progressives, we can be so compassionate, and yet when we see men struggling, we're not. We're like, oh, the patriarchy, they can suck it, they have all the advantages, and they do. This is not to say that white men don't have the advantages, but there is a crisis in the young men community. They don't feel they can get economically ahead. Education is so expensive. College is expensive. They don't think it's worth it. Women are blowing by them on academic, on financial measures, on med school, on prestigious schools, law school. Women are becoming an increasingly larger percentage. And so there's a sense that they're being left behind. And what's happening is that the Andrew Tates are taking advantage of that situation and are weaponizing what is an actual real economic despair and turning it into the most toxic of toxic masculinity, right? So we have sort of ceded that ground to the right wing. We have basically seen these young men that are struggling to make ends meet. They're struggling to support families. They don't feel like they can do that. And we're saying, here, Andrew Tate, have at them. They're yours. And in hindsight, and I was one of those people, Mark. This is not me lecturing. I was one of those people. And now in hindsight, it was not a good move on our part. And so it behooves us to be more proactive in giving those young men a sense of purpose within the context of progressivism, right? Because what Andrew Tate and that crowd is teaching them is to be independent, to be stoic, to be strong. And it's sort of like the opposite of liberalism, where we're teaching people to be, to work collectively for the greater good, and to be kind, and to be attuned to the feelings and pains of others. and they're teaching them the exact opposite, and you're creating this like class of just a-hole men, and Black men and Latino men are not immune to that. And so like Black women, obviously, you know, they were very few Black women voted Republican, but more Black men voted for Trump this time than the last two cycles. And Latinos swung very, very hard. And so there is this sense that big part of that is that institutions have failed us. Corporations have shipped jobs overseas. They don't care about taking care of their employees, obviously. The government doesn't seem to directly help people. I will never understand. I've talked about this a million times, but why do Democrats insist on hiding any benefits in the tax code? We'll give a tax credit for this, and we'll take tax credit for that. Mark, when I'm paying my taxes, I don't think, oh, thank God the Democrats passed that one thing, because otherwise my taxes would be $500 more. I don't think that. I think, freaking taxes. And I actually believe in paying taxes, and I still don't like to pay taxes, right? So why would you hide benefits and send people a check? If you want people to have a $500 credit, send them a freaking $500 check and sign it, Joe Biden. Sign it, whoever the Democrat is who passed it. Give them the freaking money so they know that government is actually looking out for them. Don't be hiding stuff in tax codes and you know how Republicans vote against a bill, and for whatever reason, Democrats are like, well, that's fine, you voted against it. We're still going to give you money to build a bridge in your district. And then those Republicans are out there like for the river cutting, taking credit for the bridge that they voted against, have big signs that actually list the names of the politicians who passed it. Who say who passed. So if you are a congressman in that district and you want credit because you want a big ass billboard with your name on it, vote for it. I mean, there's ways to like connect government to people, and Democrats don't seem to care or are afraid to do so. And so they hide stuff in ways that nobody knows what's going on. So people will say, I don't know what Democrats have done for me. I mean, even Medicaid expansion. I was just seeing somebody in a Republican message board in rural California saying that he was a Republican who depends on Medicaid, saying he doesn't care about, he's not worried about Medicaid getting cut because he has Medi-Cal. Medi-Cal is Medicaid. There's no Medi-Cal without Medicaid. That's exactly what it is. We rebrand stuff because, oh no, we don't want people to know that it was Obama's bill, right? It's just in Kentucky, it's Kentucky. I think it's Kentucky Connect.
Yeah, Kentucky Connect. All these states have different names.
Yeah, so people are like, oh, you can cut Obamacare as long as I have my Kentucky Connect. It's the same thing. Why are we hiding it?
In Oklahoma, it's called Soonacare for Oklahoma Sooners.
Yeah, so people are like, oh, they're cutting Medicaid. I'm not on Medicaid.
Right. In Washington State, it's called Apple Health. And as you said, in California, it's called Medi-Cal. So that's what they do. They change these names. And it's really unfortunate because people don't realize what's about to hit them. But let me ask you this. What about Democrats? Have they, I mean, you obviously critiquing some of what they've done, but in this current process, is there anything Democrats could have done better, Marcos?
So they have done what they can legislatively to gum up the works as much as they could. I will always criticize these Democrats who don't frickin' retire and then they die in office, and now it's actually screwing us because we have 3 empty seats from Democrats who died in office. They don't want to retire. One of the reasons they don't want to retire is because we don't have term limits on our committee chairmanships. Republicans do, right? So you get your I don't know how many terms they have to do, 4 terms or something. You don't want to be a backbencher, you retire, and that opens it up for new blood. Like, we don't do that. Like, our elected officials die in office, and that doesn't help them. I mean, go spend time with your family, for God's sake, right? Definitely doesn't help build a party that's responsive to new generations. You know, we have these geriatric Democrats in office. And then it screws us legislatively. Like right now, we a bunch of Republican bills would have failed if we had a full House contingency. So there's that. To me, the biggest problem with the Democrats, though, is that we ran a campaign basically saying that Trump was fascism and that the end of the republic, an end of our democracy, was possible if he won.
Right.
And then he got elected, and you have people like Schumer and Jeffries writing like sternly worded letters. Meanwhile, remember, Barack Obama got elected, and it was an all hands on deck. Let's destroy his presidency from day one. They didn't hide it. You had Mitch McConnell saying, my number one job is to make Obama a one-term president. Like, they went all out. And our people are like, oh, we got institutions and we have norms and we must maintain our norms. And why are we doing that? Why aren't we absolutely calling out what is fascism and doing everything rhetorically that to stop them, right? So there's a lot of frustration, obviously, and I think it's led to the rise of like Mamdani, Zoran Mamdani in New York City. There's a hunger for a generation of Democrat that doesn't just understand the grave, serious challenges that our republic is facing, but is also willing to take on the institutions that have gotten us here. Right now, our capitalistic system is not serving us. And Mark, I am a capitalist through and through, and I can see the system. I'm not a socialist. I can see the system. I can say this isn't working. I mean, you can see it. Mark, under 50,000 voted for Trump. That right there tells you the system's not working. And because Trump came in with a wrecking ball against these institutions, we as Democrats reflectively began to defend them. Some of these institutions don't need to be defended. They need to be torn up. If there's ever a silver lining to Donald Trump right now, is that he's trashing the crap out of everything. And hopefully when we retake power in 3 years, we can start fresh. And we need somebody with that vision not to come in and say, well, we're going to restore the institutions. No, the institutions are broken. Our government institutions are broken. Our business institutions, Wall Street, all of that is broken. We need somebody that's going to come in and rewrite the rules of our society in a way that actually benefits people. Because right now, it absolutely is not. If you're not part of the coastal elite, if you're not one of us living in a city that can afford to live in a city, that can afford for our kids to go to college, if you're not part of that, you can't break in. You are absolutely excluded. It is a gated community. I mean, Mark, when we were young, how much did it cost to go to a baseball game? Like, I remember like Cubs games, we'd go for like $10.
Yeah.
Hot dogs were like $2 at Wrigley Field.
Yep.
Now, a family of four, what, $250, $300?
Yeah.
Between tickets and, if God forbid you want a beer, they're like $18. How are people that are excluded from that civic life, the culture life, right? You can't go even catch a sports game anymore. Right. Certainly, you go in for I was just in Chicago because, I'm originally from Chicago. I want to spend a lot more time in Chicago. It's just me by myself, and I would get ramen, and it'll cost me $30. This life. And it's not even a question of inflation is high. Inflation's high. That's a challenge, right? And Trump won. I'll tell you, Trump won because he said, and why Latinos voted for him, he said, I'm going to lower prices on day one. That's it. And Mamdani won because he said, I'm going to lower your prices if I'm mayor. Right? No free bus fare, rent freeze, free childcare. Like, neither of them have a plan on how to make that happen. Like, I actually think Mamdani's promises are not quite realistic. I don't even understand his grocery store one. Just get rid of the tax on groceries. Like, there you go. You save 5%, right? I'm not sure why you create an entire new grocery chain, but that's not even the point. The point is he's coming in and he's saying, I see you, you're struggling. I'm going to make things cheaper for you. Como was like, I'll lower prices by creating a fund that will create more housing, and in like 8 years, maybe if we get all this funding, maybe you'll see a tax. Like, that's what people hear, right? They hear blah 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 blah. We don't come in and say we're going to lower your freaking taxes. We're going to not taxes. We're going to lower your cost of living. So
you know what we do. Remember 1984. Walter Mondale, we're going to have to raise taxes.
Yeah.
Reagan won't tell you I just did, straight down the toilet. I mean,
now,
too honest.
If you want to say raise taxes on Elon Musk, that
Right.
polls well even amongst Republicans.
Right.
That nobody and I always like to say that Mark Cuban, if he ran for president, there's a lot of buzz about him running for president. If he ran a president on a platform of, if you vote for me, I will no longer be a billionaire because I will tax me to death. Like that would be so freaking powerful. People would do it just to screw him. Yeah, we don't like billionaires. There's no reason billionaires should exist. I mean, that was like the big controversial thing that Mamdani just said, that billionaires should not exist. They should not exist.
Yeah, for what? For what purpose?
Why? Why do you need that much freaking money?
And the people who fantasize about billionaireism or being a billionaire will never get there.
No.
That's the other thing.
Shit, if I got there, I would give it away and I wouldn't be a billionaire anymore. That would be the fun part about being a billionaire, is just giving the money away. These people don't give the money away. Musk doesn't have a charitable foundation.
No.
Do the Kardashians have a charitable foundation? Like, it's unfathomable to me to have that kind of wealth and not literally be giving it all away. And it just hoards, right? Because just 10%, I mean, they could just stick it in a freaking Vanguard fund and it appreciates 8%, 10% a year, right? And so you have $100 billion, boom, you have $8 billion, almost $1 billion a month for doing nothing. You're not contributing anything, and they can accumulate that kind of wealth. That's a broken system, Mark. This is not working for people, because people are getting poorer. They're frustrated. They are cut out of our civic life. So they resort to meth. Their young people leave their cities. They're dependent on government for healthcare. And now they voted to get rid of their healthcare. Congratulations, because they think cutting Obamacare, cutting the ACA, cutting Medicaid, they think that that's different than Kentucky Connect or Medi-Cal. And that's on purpose.
Right. It is very much on purpose. So now, and as we're speaking, folks, and you all can see Hakeem Jeffries in the background, he is now at 8 hours and 15 minutes. This is now the record for the longest floor speech in the history of the House of Representatives. This is taking place as we're there. Now, I hope he's not wrapping up. Everybody's standing up with him. He's been going since about 4:53 a.m. Eastern time this morning. And again, we saw when Cory Booker did it, and now Hakeem Jeffries is doing it. So, I mean, as we get to a point where this is wild under, and you all had in effect people who called it pushed back some senators, very, very close vote, almost didn't happen. When I fell asleep last night around 1:32 a.m., they still did not have passage of the rule. There were still 4 holdouts on the rule. Now, I don't know whether those people are now. It's probably going to pass. So, Marcos,
it's going to pass, but they're still talking about the rule, right? They're not even talking about final passage yet.
No, I think the rule, it's my understanding, the rule has passed.
Oh, it has. Okay.
Early this morning.
Got it. Okay.
So then the question for us is, once this goes through, what do Democrats do next? If you had run for chair and I had been on your ticket and we would be in charge of the party like we should have been, I'm just kidding, y'all. What would have happened? What would we be doing right now? What would be next?
Mark, I'd be running a national ad campaign blasting Republicans for getting people's Medicaid. And I would actually be tailoring them to, say, Kentucky, saying they're getting rid of Kentucky Connect. They're getting rid of Sooner Care. They're getting rid of Medi-Cal. Targeting it and beginning that, because this idea that you're going to run the ad 6 weeks before the freaking election and that you're going to actually get through to people is an absolute fiction, and it's a waste of money. So I would be bashing the crap out of them. Have we seen anything in the media? No. And this, Mark, as laudable as this is, who's watching this? Us. People who are already progressives, and we're glad to see some fight, obviously, but it's not reaching the people that we need it to reach, and it never will.
Yeah,
that's what's really frustrating.
I just have to share this. Obviously, Oklahoma Medicaid is called Sooner Care. Guess what? I give you a chance to guess what Indiana's is called, Marcos.
Indiana would be Hoosier Care.
There you go. You got it. Hoosier Health Wise. Kansas, check this out. Not a lot of creativity. Can Care. K-A-N.
Care.
Okay. Yeah. Missouri, M-O Health Net. So, you know, everybody hasn't done a rebranding, but many have. New Mexico, Centennial Care. Yeah, I mentioned Sooner Care, or the Oregon Health Plan. That's exciting. But this is South Carolina, Healthy Connections. Tennessee, 10 Care. All right, as I said, Washington State, Apple Health. I don't know how they came up with that, but some states actually still have Medicaid in the name. But again, this is to throw people off, and this is to make them forget or be confused about what is taking place. SNAP benefits are going to be affected. They disproportionately are helpful to people of color, but this is going to impact, still in the majority, in the main, people who are white, because the majority of people on SNAP are not Black or Latino. They are white.
And rural America absolutely depends on it.
Yeah, and it is right. Y'all, I'm gonna share this. You all ever been? Have any of you ever traveled and gone to like a rural or super suburban area? And as you drive for miles and you see homes where people live, and you don't see a hospital, and you wonder, well, what happened? Like, could I live in a place like that if I got sick and ain't no hospital for miles around? That gives me anxiety. I don't know if I could deal with that. Imagine what it will be in those places where there's just one or two rural hospitals in that vicinity, and that closes, and those individuals don't have access to doctors and medical care. You know, you have a heart attack, you just die at home. I mean, that's pretty much what you're setting yourself up for. And this is 2025. That should not be happening. So we're gonna obviously watch this very, very closely. What's left to watch. If you're watching us on screen, you see Hakeem Jeffries and members of the Black Caucus. There, Congressman Vindman, the whistleblower who became a congressman, was just sitting behind him. Maxine Waters is there. Yvette Clarke, Frederica Wilson, members of the Congressional Black Caucus. We were up there with all of them last night. We're 8.5 hours. We're at 8 hours 20 minutes. And so this is time that the leaders of the parties have to do this. So he just took a sip of water, as you can see. We'll see how long could you talk for 8 hours, Marcos? I don't know.
Nope.
I'm sure I would have to go to the bathroom at some point, being
being
a man of a certain age. And Hakeem and I are the same age, so I don't know what he's doing. I was saying, I'd have to put on a Depend or something.
So Cory Booker actually dehydrated himself for like a full day, so he wouldn't have to go. Yeah.
Marcos Malitzis, folks, Thursday Coast, buddy. As always, we appreciate you. We will continue to watch as all of this develops. Folks, stay tuned, and don't forget, go to dailycoast.com for all the latest news about what is happening on the Hill and around the world. You know, Marcos, we'd be remiss if we also didn't touch on your military experience quickly, if you can. Your thoughts. But I mean, I don't know how much time you have, so I want to be respectful of that. But your thoughts on Iran, the bombing, we decimated them, all of that, decimated, and even his own intelligence people saying, no, that you didn't really do that. That's not what happened.
I mean, it reminds me of Dick Cheney back during the pre-Iraq war times, where the CIA was saying Saddam Hussein doesn't have weapons of mass destruction, and Dick Cheney was absolutely insistent to have a reason to go to war. So he created a rival intelligence agency inside the Pentagon to give him fake information to then justify going to war, right? I will say this time, Trump is obviously wrong. I mean, we had video just days after of one of the tunnel shafts open and the Iranians moving stuff in and out. That clearly it didn't have its intended mission, but Trump's refusal to accept that reality may actually prevent us from going to war. So in this case, I'm a little conflicted. I don't want us to go to war against Iran. I don't see a viable path to victory in an air-only war. So let him be deluded into thinking that he accomplished the mission and send the bombers home, and we're probably better off that way. So clearly, it didn't do what it was intended. From all indications, it looked like Trump was watching the Israelis systematically take out Iran's air defenses and wanted to claim victory. So he sent one sortie, claimed victory. There's no real victory, but okay. Go home. Now, what's dangerous about the whole situation, though, and this is the law of unintended consequences, is that countries that have nuclear weapons do not get bombed. And so now Iran has that much more of an incentive to finish their nuclear war program than they did before.
Right. And whereas the Obama administration was in negotiations for accountability, and Trump just completely destroyed that. Lastly, explain this, because a couple of people have asked me this: how Iran can give the U.S. a warning, we're just going to retaliate symbolically, get everybody off the base, and we're going to bomb it. I mean, what is that about? You just bombed me, so I'm going to give you a courtesy call, and I'm about to bomb you.
Yeah. So, funny enough, this is a thing that was rumored to be standard procedure. So, my son was in the Middle East, and for a year deployed, and every so often, a bunch of Iran has their like militias, right? Their allied militias in the region. A bunch of mortars would be fired, a bunch of rockets, and they would fall short of the gate of the post. And then the U.S. would bomb some spot in the desert, and then they would go back and forth. And it was a way for both of them to show how tough they were. And it was, the Iranians were like resisting the occupation of the imperialists, and the U.S. was showing how it wasn't going to be bullied around. But neither of them were particularly interested in actually killing anybody. So it was all a Kabuki Theater. What's interesting about this situation is that it seemed to be a continuation of that, except that the U.S. strike was actually a real strike, right? It was an actual attempt to take out Iran's nuclear weapons. And Trump literally gave Iran permission to strike American bases, which is not a thing that American presidents should do. And Mark, if it was Obama that did that, he'd be impeached already.
Right. And
he would already have been impeached. To give Iran permission, even if it was designed to miss, because before it was sort of wink, right? Like, it wasn't like President Biden saying, "I approve of these fake strikes and they can strike up." No, it wasn't that. It was just kind of like just it was kind of a quiet little Kabuki Theater, but it wasn't Joe Biden giving permission to Iranian militias to even pretend to attack American forces. Trump's bragging that he gave Iran permission. And Iran doesn't have real. I mean, the last thing Iran wanted was to kill an American soldier, because then the U.S. has to retaliate in a bigger fashion, right? And they could target military barracks and facilities and actually kill a lot more Iranians than Iran's capable. So Iran got to show, we retaliated, and that was part of that Kabuki. I don't know why Trump needs to open his freaking fat mouth and talk about it.
But that's what he does. Stupid.
Yeah.
Just out of control.
Yeah.
Marcos Melissa's dailycoast.com, as always. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you so much. Catch you next week.
Yes, sir.